You'll see America's favorite sport on WHBQ television.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.
When we go live at 7 Central on the air, there's nothing in the world that takes me way back, takes me to the good old days of Saturday morning, Channel 13, WHBQ TV. It's America's favorite sport on WHBQ television. Adam, one more time, get out of it as soon as that jingle is over. But once again, this is how I spent, and Rusty spent, and a lot of us spent our Saturday mornings listening to this.
You'll see America's favorite sport on W.
And another thing that makes me feel good, the deal that my brother from another mother, my best friend, Randy West, Randy found this great classic microphone Lance Russell held and used and spoke into so many times. And what a way to open the show. Once again, sometimes I just get lazy and don't hold it in my hand, but I thought I'd open the show. Ainge 13230, whatever it is in the house. Greg Wayne, Randy Dandy, Todd is here, Ange is here, Michael's here, Calvin Lindsay Jr.'s here, and so many more. First take time, we're coming from Birmingham, Alabama, that Adam Dunn drove through late Saturday night. Want to welcome, with his first take on this program today, the original panel member. Here comes Pat Trammell.
Well, hello everybody. It's been a good day. I've got my youngest home from college, which I'm happy to, and her brother came over from his attempt to move out and be independent, and she's washing his clothes now. So some things never change. But the thing I was thinking about today, Randy, and you and I talked earlier, we've gone back a little old school in the last several weeks, but as we go through some of the very, very early days of Memphis wrestling, it's kind of good to see people that we don't think about sometimes, but then grow into heroes. And you know, there's a thread through all of it, and those are the people like Tojo and the people like Jackie Fargo who are just, you know, the founding fathers, if you will. And I'm excited to kind of walk through, kind of down some of the memory lane in the show we've got planned tonight.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Good to have you on the show as always. Now we will go from Birmingham, Alabama to South Beach, Alabama. I think I got that right. Last week he was in New Orleans, Louisiana. The first thing I want to ask Rusty, who has been bragging about and posting about, and he's eating his dinner tonight from his garden. And the first question I'm going to ask Rusty as he comes in live as live can be, Rusty, is this your first time that you've messed with gardens, or is this a every year thing?
First time in a long time. We just bought this house in Orange Beach last year, so we didn't get to put in a garden that year. So this year is our first chance here. So we're already have picked tomatoes and bell peppers and basil today, which smells really good.
All right, King of Kingsport, Bo James is in the house. Says hello to all of us. So, explain. You left New Orleans. Now, when you left New Orleans and you came to South Beach, you didn't immediately buy that house?
Oh, we did. Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
we lived in New Orleans for many years.
Yes.
Then when I retired, we got a place over here in Orange Beach also, but we kept a place in New Orleans. So we go back and forth now. We moved into the Orange Beach house in June of 2024. So we've been here almost a year.
Not even a year yet, but your partial residence has been in Orange Beach for quite some time.
Yeah.
All
And New
right.
Orleans. We like to say we just go back and forth.
Before we bring Pat back on, are you fired up about this show today? Once again, we're continuing our purpose of this show to teach Memphis wrestling history lessons. Are you excited about this show today?
Oh, absolutely. I love Memphis wrestling history. I can go way back. Actually, my dad could go back further than that. He's no longer with us now. But he actually attended the match between Sputnik Monroe and Billy Wicks in the old, what was the name of it? The stadium, the outdoor stadium. Oh, gosh, I can't think of it now.
It just went away from me too. Nine times
Yeah,
out of ten, Rushwood Park.
Rustwood. That's it.
Adam
Rustwood
said that.
Park. It was
Rushwood
across
Park.
Union
Yeah.
Avenue from the old Baptist Hospital. And that was the biggest crowd in Memphis history, like 16, 17,000.
It's just unbelievable. Ben, I think, is new watching, talking Memphis wrestling. He's asking the best place to watch Memphis wrestling. If you're talking about modern wrestling, I don't know if there is a best place. If you're talking about the history of Memphis wrestling, watching this show every Tuesday night, we normally have a show filled of great stuff. Great stuff. And so this is the place where you can get all the great history lessons. And now Frank Seaton says, hey, Randy, I finished the Eddie Gilbert book by his brother, and you were mentioned a few times. Probably was not like hell. Uh, Ben is saying mainly looking for 84 to 88. You can YouTube that, and there's a ton of stuff there. And Adam, if you'll get Pat on the screen again, and I'm making a executive producer decision right now. We have a lot of stuff to think about. Pat, did you like last week where we featured most of the show on the fabulous Jackie Fargo, Pat?
I did very much because I'm a connoisseur of history of wrestling and history in general, and Jackie Fargo. I guess somebody talked about their fathers watching stuff. I guess Jackie maybe took the torch from Sputnik Monroe as kind of the godfather of Memphis wrestling. And in my era in Birmingham too, when Fargo showed up, there was, there were bills to be paid.
Absolutely, I got it. Now I'm changing the way we start because mentioning the fabulous Jackie Fargo, one video I didn't get to last week. It's not long. It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds, something like that. It says Fargo received Hall of Fame. This is from 1995, the Mid South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. If you open up where the videos are, the last one I posted will be that, and it's 2 minutes 20 seconds. And we will watch Jackie Fargo at Memphis Memories 2 be inducted in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. More when we come back on Talking
The
Memphis
often
Wrestling.
imitated, never duplicated, our last inductee, the fabulous Jackie Fargo.
There he goes, getting ready to do it.
There's the strut.
Jackie
Absolutely.
Fargo here. Looking better every day.
Eddie Marlin.
Frank Morrell, Jim White, Sarah Lee, of course, Joe.
He gonna take them all
And
on.
look at Fargo, man, a
Let's see from our
showman.
latest inductee and
Big
our
time.
honoree tonight, the fabulous Jackie Fargo. Jackie!
Never heard Jackie speechless too much.
I didn't think I'd ever be lost for words, but I sure as hell am tonight. I love you very much, and I thank you all so very much. You know, professional wrestling brought me Hall of Fame, and I'm very proud to have lived my life as a professional wrestler. I'm a very lucky human being to have a wonderful family. Judy is with me tonight, my daughter Brandy and Charlotte and my little Jennifer. I feel like I'm the luckiest man that ever lived to be a professional wrestler. And I owe it to you, to everyone in this arena, to my enemies, some of them friends. What a great, great honor to have been a professional wrestler. I'll never forget you because I'm not made that way. I'll always love you and thank you. And all my friends, I look around, I better get out of here. I'm fixing to cry. I love you very much and God bless you. One last shot for the fans of Memphis, Tennessee.
Man, I can't show anything, Ben, that explains what Memphis wrestling is all about. Somebody that still today, years after his death, still connects with us. Pat and Rusty, Pat, we'll start with you. You were grinning and Rusty was grinning ear to ear during that thing. There's one he's often imitated. He's never been duplicated. Nobody like the fabulous Jackie Fargo, Pat.
Well, he was talking about his enemies. I mean, he was keeping kayfabe to the last second, man.
Rusty?
No, that was funny. You know, Jackie, looked so, he still, even then, he looked good. He must have been probably 70 plus at that point in 95, I
He
would
was
think.
born in 30.
Yeah. So in his mid 60s, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I love
He
Jackie. He
looked
was
like he
great.
could go about 5 minutes Broadway there to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, he could have done 30 with Lawler. He could have.
Yeah.
With Lawler, he could have done 30.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind. He could have done 30 with Lawler if Jackie was 70. He
Yeah,
could
I'm
have.
sure.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Hey, new format that we have, we've been doing a lot of pictures of the week and spotlight cards of the week. We're going to go way back. I don't know if we've ever gone back this far. This will be interesting, guys. We're going with slide number 3903. 3903. This is from Memphis, Tennessee. This is at the old Ellis Auditorium. The year is going way back. Pat, I was 3 years old and you probably wasn't born yet.
What year we got? 64?
1964.
I was 1.5.
1.5 years old.
Yep.
Listen to this card, guy. The opening match of the night was Herb Welch against Mac York. Now, I believe Mac York was the brother of legendary referee Paul Morton and also, of course, his nephew, legendary Rock and Roll Express member Ricky Morton. Herb Welch of the Welch family, Mac York. And so, Pat, any comments about those two gentlemen?
Well, I did not know Mac York, but I looked up very quickly when I got the show notes. Who was Herb's? Where was he in the Welches?
One
Was
of the
he,
brothers
Yeah.
of Roy and
okay,
Lester and Bill
okay,
and all those.
I think there were 4 brothers.
okay. Was he any of the Fullers of the Golden's dad?
No, Buddy Fuller, Ed Welch was the Fullers, and I believe Bill Golden was Jimmy Golden's
Okay.
dad. Second
Okay.
match of the night is Buster Guillotine Gordon, who I've never heard of, and Tamora Soto. And I know these two, Eddie Sullivan and the fabulous Jackie Fargo, second match of the card at Alice Auditorium in 1964. So help me out, Rusty. Soto and Gordon, I have no clue.
No, I couldn't. I don't remember them either. I even kind of tried to look those up, and I couldn't figure it out.
How about Eddie Sullivan?
No, no. The only one I
Longtime
knew in
mass
this match
wrestler.
was Jackie Fargo.
How about you, Pat?
I, you know, Tamoya Soto, I believe, was in Birmingham once or twice when I was 5 on Channel 42.
This in
But
1964. This next match, this is interesting, Pat, because in 1964, they have yet to switch Tojo Yamamoto babyface because Tojo Yamamoto with the villain hated managers Saul Weingroff against Corsica Joe, Sarah Lee's husband, Corsica Joe, and that's a semifinal match. Your thoughts on that match, Pat?
well, we got half the act. We got 2/3 of the Axis power covered on the hillside there with the evil Nazi and the evil Jap. And I have a question for you. Do you remember when Tojo was born? I'm curious as to how old he was here.
No, a little. We'll let Rusty get the comments about that match so far, and I will find Tojo's.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think Tojo must have been born in the 30s because when he was in his 60s when he died, I believe, which was in
Well,
92, I think, when he died.
uh,
Oh,
uh,
they say 1927.
Adam says
yes,
27, so
Yeah,
he would have been let's see, six.
65.
Yeah, but how old was he here?
Oh, and 64, uh, 37. He was
Okay,
pretty much at his
uh,
peak as a heel then, because that
okay.
was so close to World War II. Lots of people were still mad at the Japanese, and Tojo
Oh,
played it up real big. You know,
oh
let's talk about the.
oh my dad hated Tojo until
Oh yeah,
when he turned babyface, he was so good that he got over with my dad, which was unbelievable.
this
So
and Thomas, you're asking the text. I would guess ringside tickets were 225. That's I would guess that. The main event of the night, a tag team of Don Carson, who later became manager for a long time. Don Carson and the Red Shadow against Ken Lucas and Dennis Hall, a very popular babyface tag team that drew a lot of money in Birmingham, I understand.
they
Your
did.
thoughts on that, Pat?
Ken Lucas was a fantastic worker, and I saw him a lot longer than I did Dennis Hall. But yeah, they were a babyface team up into the late '60s. And and it seems like in his book or just an interview or maybe some conversation we had, uh, Jerry Jarrett was very high on Dennis Hall, and somehow he just never got there or
Hmm.
something. I don't really remember that conversation, but I thought they both worked great. And Don Carson, uh, who was he the manager of in the '80s? He was the manager of somebody
The
in.
Mongolian Stomper.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
that's right.
That's
Yeah,
right. The Stomper and they were in Atlanta a lot too.
yep.
Absolutely on the Superstation. Your thoughts on is does that precede your fandom, Rusty, Don Carson and Red Shadow, Dennis Hall, and Ken Lucas?
I remember seeing those guys at some point, not in 1964. I would have been 5 years old then. And Ken Lucas went on longer, I think, than any of the rest of those because I remember him. He was a great worker. He fought Lawler, in the mid 70s and those matches were great. So Ken could really work.
No doubt about it. And just as we continue the history of Memphis wrestling and the Memphis Territory Wrestling, image number 3908 is the next card we'll take a look at. This is at the Fairgrounds Coliseum, which is different than the Fairgrounds Sports Arena we used to
Right.
wrestle in every Saturday night. They built a building specific for wrestling, Fairgrounds Coliseum. I've seen matches and video from that building. I wonder if Randy West was ever in that original building. I bet he will. Nick had the sports arena built and as part of the fairgrounds, not too far from where the Fairgrounds Coliseum was. This is in 1968. 1968 on May the 1st, the opening match. I'll just go over the whole card. The Scuffling Hillbillies against Rowdy Red Roberts and Mr. Anna. Then Don Carson and Red Shadow against Buddy Wayne, Greg. Buddy Wayne and Eddie Sullivan against the Shadow and Don Carson uh, at the Nashville Coliseum, May the 1st of the year 1969. And the main event of the night was, again, it was Dennis Hall and Ken Lucas against Rocket Monroe and Tojo Yamamoto. We'll hear the name Tojo a lot, Pat.
Is that picture of Tojo?
I think that's probably a picture of
Again.
Tojo when he was like 18.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah, I'd like a blow up of that. That's awesome right there. That is a pure babyface heel main event right there. A Rocket Monroe could be the best heel I've ever seen, even when he was old.
Absolutely interesting there. Randy West said he never went to this building either, the Fairgrounds Coliseum. Rusty?
So I have a question. So
Okay.
that's not the building that I saw Aldous and Cody wrestle for the NWA belt.
No, that was the Fairground Sports Arena, and that's where
Okay.
Jarrett had the matches. And the last couple of years of Nick's run, that's where Nick ran also.
Okay, that was, and Jeff wrestled that night too. That was a great wrestling venue.
Wonderful, it really was. This Nashville card there have Rusty. I'm sure you've gone to Nashville, maybe not to wrestling, but you've been to Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't go to that venue. That was before my time. This was just about the time I was starting to become interested in wrestling. I remember I want to say it was 68. We would see many of those same guys, Ken Lucas and Dennis Hall and Tojo and Buddy Wayne and so forth. I remember at one point, I don't know whether you guys remember this or not, we had the NWA World Champion in 68 or so, and it was Gene Kiniski.
Gene Kiniski, yes.
And he came to town. I can't remember who he wrestled now, but he was one of those champions that went all over the world. And at least once he came to Memphis.
At the end of his tenure was 68. He lost the title in 68. Later in 68, Dory Funk Jr.
Right.
One of my favorite world champions of all time, even though pretty much before my time as the world champion. The next card we're going to look at is 3901. 3901. Bible, Arkansas had been ran for years, and the promoter for years and years and years we saw on that original Memphis card was Herb Welch. It's 3901, and that's not it. I will. Maybe I did not put it on there, but
Yeah, that card must be from the early 80s.
that's Blytheville, Arkansas, and we will get to that next. That is that and the next card. And you're right, you with the Blytheville one. I'm sorry, that was
Yeah.
my mistake there. Bible Arkansas was promoted by Herb Welch, one of the Welch's clan. After that, Buddy Wayne was the local promoter, and then Eddie Marlin returned to promote wrestling in Blytheville, Arkansas. This is in May of 1982. The opening match, Tojo Yamamoto against local teacher Joe Stark, then Gypsy Joe against Stan Lane, Luke Graham, Crazy Luke, and Dream Machine against Roy Rogers, which later became Johnny Rich, Roy Rogers, Tommy Rich's first cousin, Bobby Fulton, of course, future of the Fantastics with Tommy Rogers, Luke Graham, Dream Machine against Roy Rogers and Bobby Fulton in the main event for the Southern Tag Team titles. Maybe my favorite heel tag team of almost all time, especially of the 80s, for sure. Beautiful Bobby Eaton and Sweet Brown Sugar, Coco Ware, against Bill Dundee and Steve Kern. Comments on that card, guys?
Oh yeah, with Jimmy Hart as their manager, because those guys weren't great talkers. Right, that is Bobby Eaton and Sweet Brown Sugar, but with Jimmy Hart, they were a really good tag team, heel tag team, and they did some great stuff. I remember watching them a lot. I was going to ask a question too. So you mentioned Buddy Wayne promoted Blytheville at some point. Was not Buddy? And I guess Greg is in the house. He can answer this. Was not Buddy from Arkansas somewhere? I can't remember where. Maybe Marion or something like that. I don't know for sure.
Since the time I knew Buddy lived in Memphis, Tennessee, but as
Okay.
a wrestler, he worked a lot of
Oh yeah.
territories all over. Pat, comments on that card?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, watching Bobby Eaton and Coco, Sweet Brown Sugar at the time, even when they were young and raw, I of course enjoyed the Midnight Express through the years. But I tell you what, if I was the booker of the world, I would have kept that tag team together for 40 years.
I think certainly. I really think as good as the versions of the Midnight Express were, and they were great, with no doubt. Dennis Condrey and Bobby and Stan Lane were great. And to tell you the truth, Dennis Condrey, you know what? I think his best tag team partner was Phil Hickerson.
There's no
Yeah,
question
I agree.
about that. No question about that.
Hickerson and
Yep.
Condrey was great as well. It's fun to take a look at those cards. And the last spotlight card of the week goes to Memphis, Tennessee. And it's number 3,900, May the 4th, 1984. Lawler is booking, so by God, there's a lot of matches on that card. Ticket price
Yeah, man, that's half the stands.
4, 5, and 6. The ticket price is 4, 5, and 6. Brickhouse Brown against 18 member number 1. I don't know if 18-1 was Don Bass or Roger Smith.
Yeah.
One of them. Since Donnie lived in the area, I would say it's Don Bass against Brickhouse Brown. Then the second match is Bugsy McGraw and Scott Shannon against Japanese Assassin. I have no idea who that is. And Ox Baker, one of the most impressive, nasty, mean-looking son of a guns that's drawn money all over the world. And we'll just discuss that and lose the card for just a second because I wanted to get this point over. I read a thing. Somebody was talking about Memphis and complaining. They saw a card, and it wasn't this card, but it was a card in the 1984 era. And they said Memphis didn't know what they were doing because here they had Ox Baker, one of the great heels of all time, and he was in the opening two matches, and they never did anything with him. Well, at that time, in 1984, Ox was at the end of his career.
Yep.
He was older. He didn't move very fast at all. He was phony, everything he did. And
Yep.
Jerry Lawler couldn't say no to anybody. I mean, you call Jerry Lawler and he'll put him on the guard. Especially a legend like that. He just had a great, great heart. Ox Baker, Rusty.
Yeah, Ox still had the look then, he had that great mustache and so forth. And he was real big. He was probably 6'6" or something, but he couldn't move anymore at that point. They brought him in, as an attraction, I guess. In fact, I might have been present for that card. That must have been in the Coliseum. And I remember seeing those wrestlers, but I'm not sure that it was that card or maybe another one right around that time.
Catching up on a few people, Frank says Ox Baker was on The Price is Right. Ben says, what about Condrey and Rose? And we were basing that out of the one match with Coco and Bobby. The conversation didn't have anything to do with Condrey and Rose, but they were a great tag team. They were a great tag team. They debuted in Pensacola, then came to Memphis, and it was a three-man Midnight Express tag team in Memphis: Condrey, Randy Rose, and Norvell Austin. So hopefully that we'll get that. So comments, Pat.
Yeah, when you think about it, and he rarely wrestled as a single that I recall seeing, but he wrestled a lot in Birmingham, wrestled a lot in Memphis, and obviously, with the iteration of the Midnights, I wrestled a lot in Georgia too, so I saw it. Yeah, did Dennis Condrey ever have a bad tag team match? I think that guy could have wrestled with me and we'd have got over.
Oh, he was great.
He was the ring general, especially with Bobby and Cornette. He was the ring general, and then of course everybody in the ring. There was nobody at the level of Bobby Eaton ring wise. Nobody ever.
Nope.
He was just fantastic. We'll go with the card again and look at further matches. This is basically a enhancement match, and this is going back to 3900, and this is that Memphis card. And the next match was Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Rick McCord. Rick McCord, a preliminary wrestler, Rusty, and of course part of the Hart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Neidhart in 1984.
Yeah, I remember when they brought Jim Neidhart in. He had a football gimmick for a while. He would say he played for the Raiders. I remember that.
Yes.
And he would bring a Oakland Raiders helmet out with him. And yes, Rick McCord was one of those guys who on Saturday mornings would come out and lose all the time. So it's kind of nice that he got a Monday night match. That didn't happen that often.
No, it didn't. Pat, this match with
I would like to have seen, because this is early in Neidhart's career. I'm assuming, or fairly early. But yeah, and I remember seeing Rick McCord, and like you say, Rusty, he probably got a good check for that, and that's good. Now, Randy, this was not the time when Lawler was putting together the split and had brought a bunch of guys in and had to put them to work for a while, is it?
This is a year after the split.
Okay.
Yeah, a year and 2 months after the split. Yeah. This was later on, but Lawler has a history of loading up the cards for sure. The next match is Harley Davidson and Dirty Rhodes against the PYT Express. Of course, Coco, a member of the PYT Express. Who was the other member of the PYT Express? Was it Norvell Austin, or who else was it? I forgot the other member.
I think it was Norvell.
It was Norvell. Yeah, it was Norvell.
Harley Davidson. You remember who that was?
He went on to in the WWF to be what was his name? Hillbilly Jim.
Hillbilly Jim.
Okay.
Absolutely. Motorcycle boot match, Harley Davidson and Dirty Rhodes. Dirty Rhodes, of course, was part of Fire and Flame and the A-Team and the Assassins, and he was a badass, man, against the PYT Express. I'm sure that was a great match. Great match with Harley Davidson, Dirty Rhodes against the PYT Express, Pat.
Now that's a boot on T at 10. What's that right below? What's that right
Motorcycle
below where
boot
it says
match.
motorcycle boot beat match?
Boot
Boot
on
on.
top of 10-foot pole.
Oh,
Okay. 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 That sounds like a Lawler creation, doesn't it?
yep.
Yep.
So if you got the boot, you got to use it on your opponent.
And not
Yes.
get disqualified.
It's like
Yes.
what's the glove?
Coal miner glove
Oh,
match.
miner's
Yeah.
glove.
Yeah.
The next match is a grudge match. Dirty Dutch Mantel, and he drew money with a lot of people. He especially drew money with Rick Rude. Rude was a wrestler brought in from Mid South Wrestling in Louisiana, part of that trade that sent Dundee. This is Rick Rude, who was a preliminary wrestler for Watts. Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler made him a main event star, no doubt about it. And this is a grudge match, Dutch Mantel and Rick Rude.
I
Yeah,
would
he
have.
came in with Neidhart, I think, didn't he, at the same
Yes,
time? And
yes.
Rick had, I didn't know if it was his real wife or real girlfriend or whatever, but he brought a girl with him. It's like his valet. I want to say it was Angel, maybe.
Angel, and that's the prettiest valet to
She
this
was.
day I've ever seen.
Yeah. Was that his real wife or real
No,
girlfriend?
girlfriend.
Okay. Girlfriend.
I got to
Pat,
look
your
up.
comment on that match, Dutch and Rick Rude.
Well, I've heard, unfortunately before he passed away, but I heard Rude talking about where he really got an understanding of how to work a match in Memphis. And if you look at who he worked with, Lawler, Mantell, all those guys, I mean, it's easy to see. Randy, one thing we didn't talk about, and maybe you wanted to come back to it, the Southern Tag Team match. I
Yeah,
don't
I
re-
saw that. Now I'm not sure I remember that.
I don't remember the Jimmy Hart Fabulous Ones and what that was all about.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Fabulous Ones versus Jimmy Hart's Fabulous Ones. I don't remember them.
I I skipped that match as we were going over that card. My bad. And you know what? I don't remember that either.
That sounds like a Lawler creation at the last minute, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm thinking about it, and because there's so many people on the card, I was thinking it was blaming Lawler. But in May of '84, Jerry Jarrett was booking.
Hmm.
This is not a typical Jerry Jarrett card in any way. That really isn't. So if anybody knows, of course, we had the new Fabulous Ones later on as when Stan and Steve was fired. Then they put Tommy Rich in with Eddie Gilbert, and they were the new Fabulous Ones. And and Adam thinks maybe Dream Machine and Pork Chop Cash. You know, New York Dolls was original team against the Fabulous Ones when the Fabs debuted. That's their first program, and that was Rick McGraw and the Dream Machine back then. But Adam's saying Dream Machine and Pork Chop Cash, that is a possibility. So
Yeah.
certainly,
Could be.
maybe when they did the funeral for the Bruce Brothers and the
Oh, that
Dream,
was great.
I think that's a possibility. I think that's a possibility, Adam, for sure. So I'm glad y'all brought that back up. And the next match, return international title match, Austin Idol, Randy Savage. Can you imagine what kind of
Wow.
match that would be?
That's if I could just if I could pay 3 times the ticket price to see one match and forget the rest of them, that's the match I want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Imagine those two guys together. That could have headlined anywhere in the country.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a great, good looking match. And the final match of the night was for the Southern title when it was a Southern title against the Mid America title. Southern champion Jerry the King Lawler. They called him the Road Warrior Humongous. That was dropped pretty quick. Humongous. And at the time, I think this is when Humongous first debuted, and his name was a former Memphis State football player and one of the pro leagues that were in Memphis. He played football for them as
The original Showboats.
absolutely Mike Stark
Yep.
was that guy who had a run in the early 70s, a big program with Lawler back in the day. He came in, debuted. Now the fact that Humongous is on the card, Lawler likes monsters, so heck. But I was thinking in May of '84, Lawler, Jerry Jarrett had taken back the book. So interesting cards. Real quick, we took a look at 4 cards. If you had to pick one you wish you'd have been there for, Rusty, which card would you wanted to see? The Memphis 64, the Nashville 68, the Bible card, or this card we just saw, which you probably saw anyway?
I think I did, and I think that would be my choice out of those 3. Excuse me, particularly for Austin Idol versus Randy Savage. But Mike Stark went on to be the strength and conditioning coach for Memphis State football team at that point, and stayed in that job for a number of years. So I don't know what happened to him after that, though.
I don't know what happened to him at all either. Pat, to ask you the question of the 4 cards.
I'm looking up Mike Stark, but probably that last one, but also that second one I would have loved to have seen.
I wouldn't have turned down any of them.
No.
Me either, without a doubt in the world. This is Talking Memphis Wrestling. Michael St. John having transmitter problems at his radio station last minute. He just waiting for an engineer, and he said that he's going to try to join if humanly possible. He would try to join later on for sure. And Ben, I think Sid, I forgot who, he was either the second or the third. I am not positive about that for sure. I'm not positive about that.
Wasn't Jeff Gaylord a Humongous for a while?
Not that I remember.
No,
not
okay.
at a time when I was
There
around.
was another Humongous who was not as tall as Sid, but I can't remember who that was.
Yeah, and he wrestled as Humongous for the Fullers as well. And if Bo James is watching the show still, he was watching earlier but hadn't commented since he said hello, he'll remember who that was, or maybe Randy Westwood as well. One of my favorite segments, these spotlight cards of the week. And now we'll go with our next segment, which is segment number 4, and these are the photos. And the thing I want to say about the photos right now is give different people credit, and not particularly for each photo because I'm not sure. The great photographers of Memphis Wrestling, Scott Teal, probably took more Memphis Wrestling pictures than anybody. Mike Shields was great, and Pat Rose gets it. Jeff Van Camp.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
Who
I was confusing him with Jeff Gaylord. That's correct.
Scott Teal, a great photographer, no doubt about it. Mike Shields, also a video photographer. He wasn't nowhere near as good as Randy West, but Michael Shields was the first video cameraman in Memphis and did a very good job, and everybody thought he was great till we saw Randy West works, and Randy blew everybody out of the water. I get these pictures looking at the website, the Nick Gulas Memorial website, the Kentucky Wrestling website. There's Matt Memories website. There's just so many great sites that we get these great pictures. We got a cool little series, and our several first several pictures I think you will really like as we look at 3910. We look at 3910 right now, and this is one of the greatest world champions in the history of the world, and this is one of the most unique pictures that you will ever see in your life of the classic AWA world champion, my favorite world champion of all time, the best worker, even though when you look at world champions, the greatest worker of them all, and the greatest worker of all them, Nick Bockwinkel. How about that picture of the doggies, Pat?
I love that, and I think Nick was kind of well known for being a dog lover, and I think a dog trainer.
I know you have dogs, Pat.
I do, I do.
How many?
Two dogs.
And Nick had two dogs too. How about you, Rusty? You a dog lover?
You know, we don't have dogs. We have had cats over the years, but I'm not opposed to dogs. I remember Nick Bockwinkel would use those big words all the time. He'd call people humanoid cretins and
Yes.
use, oh yeah, like 4 and 5 syllable words to try to put out or make other people feel stupid and stuff. He was great.
Nick,
He built himself from Hollywood, I think.
Yes.
if you can look it up, and it's on YouTube, I think Nick Bockwinkel won Hollywood Squares.
Yes.
Very intelligent guy.
Very intelligent. Next picture is 3914. 3914. And this is cool. Our theme of this show is going to be dogs. And this is, somebody identify these guys for me. I know. Pat, we're going to make you do it.
All right, there's one Randy Poffo and his dad Poffo. Angelo.
Right.
Angelo, better known to me and you as Randy Savage.
Absolutely. How about that picture? Man, it's a goodie, isn't it?
Oh, that's a good one. Remember, Angelo actually came on TV as a character in Memphis for a while when Randy
Yeah.
first came there, and was like a manager, sort of, I guess, for Randy. And Lanny actually came on at the same. Randy's brother came
Right.
on in Memphis at that time also.
That was 83, 84, the debut at the end of 83 in December of 83. 3915 on Talking Memphis Wrestling, our spotlight pictures of the week. And our spotlight, we're showing a few doggies. This one with fabulous one, Steve Kern, and his pet right there. Pat,
That's a good looking dog he's got there.
Rusty,
Oh yeah, that's a nice one. I've not seen that picture before.
I haven't either.
Steve looks good
3909.
in that picture.
Absolutely. 3909, getting away from the doggy pictures. This is the Mighty Yankees. I don't know if this precedes your time or not. This is manager George Harris. This is Charles Fulton and my riding partner, mine and Jeff Jarrett's riding partner and driver for many years. Do a lot of money, a lot of places, also known as the French Angel. This is Frank Morrell.
All right.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Frank Morrell, Charles Fulton. This goes back. They were a team, and Frank Seaton asking, "Is that Frank Morrell on the left?" And it absolutely is. Frank, funny son of a gun and a pot smoking son of a bitch. Pat,
You know I don't know. I think the mighty Yankees spent most of their time in the territory in Nashville, but they would bring them to Birmingham as as a heel team, kind of as a swap out with the interns and the medics and the greens. and obviously Yankees are not going to get over in Central Alabama. So yeah, they were a pretty bad Hills team. I don't remember George. I don't remember them having a manager,
Yeah.
although and
I don't remember those guys either.
if Bo's on, he might remember. But it seems to me that uh, maybe Sam Bass managed them once or twice in Birmingham. I don't remember that, but I think it's just, not that I don't remember it, but it's just kind of somewhere there. But maybe I'm wrong.
39-11 as we continue our picture segment gimmick. And Michael would like this one. This is Nick Goulas' end of the territory. NWA six-man World Tag Team Champions, Tojo Yamamoto, George Goulas. Everybody talk about George Goulas. I don't know if we've ever shown a picture of George Goulas on the history of the show, Pat, have we?
No, not that I'm aware of.
And Tommy Wildfire Rich, two of Tojo's three most famous proteges, in order, Jerry Jarrett, George Goulas, and Tommy Rich. Not in order of age as far as early in the career. Thomas, you asked so much about how somebody is. I have not heard from Frank Morrell in 20 years. I have no idea. Hopefully he's still living. He would be older now. I have no idea. Jeff doesn't know. I have no idea. And Frank, this doesn't have a date on
Yeah,
it.
I was about to ask that same question Frank did. I can't place the date on
I
that.
would say 75.
Could be.
Comments on that picture, Pat?
I was curious too because I didn't know when Tommy got started. I thought it was a little later than that, but y'all would know better than I would. I mean, all I'll say is George Goulas has got more NWA six-man world championship reigns than I do.
Tommy
There you go.
Tommy Rich debuted in Jonesboro in December of '74.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm just guessing it could be a '74 picture or a '75 or even a 1976. And that maybe when you think about the push they would have given, they probably would have put those straps on Tommy Rich that early in his career. Now, Nick would have insisted George having the title
Right.
on his very first match. I wouldn't be so
Well,
surprised.
he may have made up. I never heard of the NWA six-man belt before in my life, so that may have been a special accommodation for young George.
39-12. Picture number 39-12. We're getting away from dogs a little bit. We were stuck on dogs, and here comes the king in one of his world famous entrances. He would come in from the ceiling. He would come in the limousine. He would come in on the horse, all kinds of stuff. Did you ever see any of those kinds of entrances live in person, Rusty?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Remember the one where he came up through the floor?
Yeah,
and
that was his
smoke and
return in
steam?
1981.
Oh yeah, those were all right. Entrances were a big thing in Memphis way before they were at WWF or NWA or anywhere else. They kind of pioneered the theatrical entrances.
You're absolutely right. You really are. I mean, I don't remember in the heyday of the Omni in Atlanta, even Flair having an entrance like they did in Memphis. Randy, whose horse is that?
No idea. They might have borrowed it from the zoo.
Well, I guess Jerry's pretty comfortable with a horse because he rode him in a couple times.
Yeah.
Now, Pat, I have a question for you. Boutwell Auditorium, and this was on Nick's end, and Nick wasn't about spending money. No elaborate wing entrances.
This is how it was an elaborate entrance at Boutwell, and you know what you were doing? You were clearing the cigarette smoke. I could see, I was 3 feet tall then, and in my mind, 2 feet above my head was this cloud of smoke.
Yep.
That is classic. Let's get back to the dogs. 3913. Explain this one, Pat. You might not guess it.
I do guess it. That's Stan Lane and
Mhm.
couple of looks like bull mastiffs or something. That's got to be a relative. Is that a relatively recent picture?
Yes, I would say within the last year, probably.
Okay.
But he looks good, and the dogs
Oh,
look
yeah.
good, and they're posing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
Did
next,
you guys ever hear the rumor that Stan Lane was the father of a congresswoman now named Lauren Boebert? I think it was proven false eventually, but it made the national news for a while.
Yeah. I think she didn't deny that. And I think Stan's attitude was, who among us couldn't be Stan Lane's illegitimate child?
Yep, pretty much.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole, folks.
I'm quote,
Probably,
I'm quoting Jimmy Cornette on that.
probably, I'm not at all.
I do
Probably,
believe they had a DNA test that proved he
But
was not
they
this
did.
woman's father.
They did.
probably next will be my favorite picture that takes me so much. Rusty, it'll take you way back to these days, this type of microphone days right there, as you see the
Oh
OC
yeah, that's a great
microphone.
microphone.
This picture is from WHBQ TV. This is in 1968. This is picture number 3916, and this is
Oh,
our man.
yeah.
Oh,
This
Dialing
is
for
our
dollars.
man's second ever television job. He did wrestling first, and then before he did the weather, he hosted the Dialing for Dollars music. And what time
Yep.
did that come on? 10 o'clock
Like
in the morning, Monday through
yeah,
Friday?
9 or 10 a.m., something like that. It was in the morning. I remember when I would be out of school in the summertime, I would call in to Dave all the time on dialing for dollars. I never got through to him though.
they
Yeah.
did that in Birmingham on the afternoon movie, and you would have to give the count and the amount.
Yes, same
Yeah.
thing.
Same
Yeah.
thing, but it was a morning movie instead, I believe.
Uh,
Maybe 9 to 11, or maybe 10 to 12. I'm
One of
not
those.
sure.
Yeah.
But this was 1968. Dave, I sent it to Dave, and Dave said that was in 1968. And I said I was 7 years old then, and he wrote back smart aleck. He didn't cuss, so he wrote back smart aleck. Kevin says Dave still looks great. Didn't look much different when I saw him last year at the Hall of Fame. Kevin, appreciate that comment. Appreciate you being at the Hall of Fame. I love that picture. Now, I forgot to put an image number, so just to go with the next picture we have.
Oh, that's a young Scott Steiner with is that what is his name? The Fabulous Kangaroo.
You know
I can't think of
what?
his name.
At first, I thought it was Saul Weingroff, but
Yeah, I
then
thought
after
that too.
that, I thought it was Al Costello.
Yep, that's it. Of the
Pat?
Fabulous Kangaroos.
I did not recognize Scott Steiner at all.
Yes, sir.
I just did not know. But once you said that, Rusty, I recognized it.
This is 1988, 1989, something like that. A great picture. Some of the great drawings from Jerry Lawler. We'll look at 39 to 18 right now. 39 to 18 as we look at our next slide. And he stinks, says Jerry Lawler. Artwork by Jerry the King Lawler. Down with Austin Idol, down the toilet. What do you think, Rusty?
Oh, to quote Jackie Fargo, he stinks. You stink, Bart. He
No
must
doubt
have said
about it.
that 10 times. Oh, that was great. That's a great picture. You know,
I,
Jerry was
I,
underrated as an artist.
if he's got one of those, I'll buy it. I love that. I love that.
It's
And that actually that captures Lawler's, Idol's personality better than anything.
That is good.
Yeah,
we got one more coming up in just a few minutes. Our next picture, though, we'll get to it in a few minutes. But the next picture we're going to see, Chris Ellis would love this one. You know where I'm going with that, Pat. Anyway,
absolutely.
39-19, 39-19. Terry Taylor, Chris Ellis's most hated person on the face of the earth, and the Boogie Woogie Man came rolling into Memphis TWA. Tell all the ladies, handsome Jimmy's on the road, on the way. He's a rocker, real roller. He's a little funky too. He's raised by a gypsy, handsome school. What do you think about Terry Taylor, Rusty?
Yeah, I remember this. Terry was, great looking young guy when he came to Memphis, in the early mid 80s. And you thought, this guy's going to be a star. His career kind of got derailed when he became the Red Rooster, I guess. But he stayed in the business as like a producer and agent and so forth after that.
He still
Handsome
works in the
Jimmy.
WWE to this day.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
Yeah,
I
for
believe it.
NXT.
I believe it. Handsome Jimmy had that song that you were singing. And I
Came
remember,
rolling in the Memphis TWA. Tell all the ladies, handsome Jimmy on the way. He's a rocker, a roller, a little funky too. He's raised by a gypsy. Old handsome is cool. There we go.
that's it. And for the longest time, I misheard those lyrics. And I kept thinking Handsome Jimmy was saying, and he's a little funky Jew. I mean,
Oh no, no, okay, babe, okay, babe.
Handsome Jimmy's Jewish? I remember thinking that for the longest time.
That is classic, Pat.
Not to disparage anything our broadcast partner Chris Ellis says, but in my mind, Terry Taylor is the most mishandled wrestling athlete in the history of the sport, and you know he he could have been and should have been Steve Kern, Stan Lane level. But once they put that chicken thing on him, that was the end of it.
Now, Jerry Jarrett booked him good in Memphis in
Yep.
'82 and '83. Then into '83, into '84, maybe a little into '85. Bill Dundee booked him good. Bill Watts booked him good. But when he went to WWF, I think it was a rib on him. It was all over.
That's right.
But he
That's
still
exactly
made a
right.
lot of money in this business. So that people say, oh, that killed Terry Taylor. It might have killed him as an in-ring wrestler, but it didn't kill him in the wrestling business.
He made a career of wrestling for sure.
And still
No
is,
doubt
I think.
about it. 39-20. How about this one? This is
Wow.
this was WrestleMania weekend, Pat. This is the King currently, about less than a month ago, at a fan fest, WrestleMania weekend in Las Vegas with the Stinger.
Yeah.
I've never seen Sting with the beard before. The
Yeah.
Sting's looking good, and never seen that though. Uh, he's kept himself in
Sting
good shape.
had two sons that I think were trying to get into wrestling for a while, and I don't know whatever became of them, whether they really got in or not. I know they took a couple of shots at it, but I don't know whether they stuck with it or not.
They
Randy,
were his Sting's last match. They were involved in the finish. They were athletic
Right.
looking dudes, and one of them I heard was going to get trained by Darby Allin. Now I'd have them be trained by maybe Jeff Jarrett. I could name about Darby is good for the modern fans to learn the basic of wrestling. I can't think of anybody worse than Darby Allin to
Yep.
teach the worst for that. Before we go
Randy,
to our next picture,
Randy, let me ask you something real quick.
Okay.
Were you working when Sting and the Warrior came in as
I
the
was
boy
an
band?
announcer. I was a Mid South Coliseum announcer, and throughout I would do announcing and other towns too, and had a ring announcer and all the shows around this area. And by the time they were here in '85, I was out of college, so I was going everywhere. I was going to Nashville, Louisville, Lexington. Yes, I knew them both well.
What were your memories and impression of them at the time, if you could put yourself back?
Oh, I thought they were the uh, most impressive physical specimens I've ever seen in my life. They were huge, but coming from the Memphis territory and as strict as we were on talent, they were horrible.
Oh, they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
No, I mean, just phony. That Jerry Jarrett felt they were going to kill the territory, and they needed go to a bigger territory where they could hide them better. You can't. We had everybody we had on the roster we had to use, and we couldn't hide in spot shows. We had to put them everything.
What
So
did
Oh
they
yeah,
go?
and guys that big, you had to use them in the main event because
Yeah.
look, they looked so good, but then they couldn't work.
Did they go to Watts, or did they go to the Von
Uh,
Ayers?
they went to Watts. Watts hated Jim Hellwig. But he
Uh,
saw a ton of potential in Sting, so he immediately sent Hellwig to Fritz Von Erich in World Class
right.
Wrestling.
okay.
Sting became a star, and Eddie Gilbert had a lot to do with that because
Hmm.
he was in Hot Stuff International. Sting was, and became a big star there as well, no doubt about it. I think I'm a singer, and it's America's favorite sport on WHBQ. Came rolling into Memphis, all that, and Rusty, you can say no if you like, because it's no time, and I bet you don't have your guitar inside. Give me the first few words. Sing the first few words of that Memphis song I like.
Rolling into
Not
Memphis.
that, no, no, no.
Oh
That's the one
no,
I
not
sing.
that one.
The Memphis
It's
song we talked about last uh, long distance information.
oh, Memphis, Tennessee, Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Long distance information, give me Memphis, Tennessee. It's try to
Trying to
reach the
reach a
party, trying
party.
to get in touch with me. I did not have her number, but I know who placed the call because her uncle took the message and he wrote it on the wall.
All right. That's fantastic. And you can see a lot more on the Blues Doctor. How smooth is I? How smooth
Nice, nice intro.
the Blues Doctor, and you will. I don't know because he'll preview it in a few minutes. Hopefully, if YouTube's right, it will premiere at midnight tonight. Most of the time, I'm asleep at midnight, so I'll check in the morning
Check in
about
the morning. Yeah.
4:15 in the morning. What do you have in the works for any music coming up?
Oh yeah, yeah. First off, I didn't know that's where you were going with that, with the singing thing. But yes, there is music. I talk a lot about New Orleans Jazz Fest, which just ended this past weekend, and they had some great acts there.
Did you go?
Plus, I didn't get to go because we were back here. Well, the first weekend we were babysitting, so I couldn't go then. Then we came back here, although I've been many times in the past. So Jazz Fest is great. It's confined to the fairgrounds area in New Orleans. So there, I think I saw the average attendance every day for this year was like 59,000 people at the fairgrounds, which is just amazing that many people go there every day for, I think it's 8 or 9 days. So yeah, if you get a chance to see Jazz Fest in the future, it's really an experience. So I talk about that. And I talk about some of the artists who played in Jazz Fest this year.
What else on the show this week?
The other interesting thing to me is that the National Cancer Institute just put out their annual report like 2 weeks ago. It was like the last few days in April. And it's got some really interesting information about what happened with cancer diagnosis and mortality during the pandemic, during the COVID pandemic. It really changed significantly during that. The way we diagnosed cancer, therefore the what we think was the incidence of cancer, and therefore what the mortality, in other words, what the death rate from cancer was, because we were not diagnosing people as early during the pandemic as we typically would. And we're just starting to see the results of that. So I start talking about that a good bit on the podcast tomorrow also.
All right, that is great information for sure. Thinking about music, a Memphis artist for sure was certainly born in Arkansas, raised in Arkansas. Johnny Cash, and one of the songs that I love. I can't even give you a sample of it. I love the old Johnny Cash song "Hey Porter." You remember that one?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think I can sing that one, but I
Okay,
remember
well,
it.
Pat, sing that one for me.
You don't want me to sing, Randy. You don't want me to sing.
No doubt about it. Having fun. Anything else on the podcast? We have the music to talk about the Jazz Fest. We got the cancer subject that we'll talk about. What else on the show
What
tomorrow?
else? On the calendar this week, it was the birthday of Little Walter. And if you're a blues music
Oh
fan, you
yeah.
love Little Walter. He was the first kind of legendary blues harmonica player, and he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now. In fact, I think he's still the only primary harmonica player in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And Little Walter had a very interesting life, so we talk about him some as well.
I can't wait, folks. Check out YouTube. It's the place, and he usually puts on his Facebook page, William Robinson. He usually puts the links up, but you can go and search on YouTube the Blues Doctor podcast, and it's on YouTube every week. It's usually supposed to be up at midnight on Tuesday night, and please subscribe to it. Write him a comment, and be sure to. And PJ saying, "Sing it, Pat, sing it."
Yeah, PJ, you don't want to hear that. Everybody thinks they can sing. It took me till I was 50 years old to just kind of realize, no, you can't sing.
We have several pictures today on from various television studios that's not Channel 5 or Channel 13, including this one, 3921. Hey, Crazy Gal, my good friend, Bad Bob's and Crystals and all that good stuff. Gail says you can sing. Gail, you should sing. Anyway, let's go with 3921. Just the next picture we have up there. And this is Chattanooga Television. I think this is Harry Thornton interviewing beautiful Bobby Eaton, a young Bobby
Wow.
Eaton, and
Look at
George
those wings.
Lewis.
Yeah, wow.
Harry is covering him up. This is a classic picture there, Pat.
Look at those wings Bobby's
Oh,
got.
yeah.
Yeah, that's Harry Thornton in a leisure suit, baby. That's Chattanooga wrestling right there.
And you can't see George. Your thoughts. You're probably like me. You didn't see much of Chattanooga.
No, I never saw really any Chattanooga wrestling, and I would not have recognized Bobby Eaton there. They just, oh,
That's the
amazing.
jet. That's the jet set.
Oh,
Yes, and
yeah.
I'm guessing that was 1977. Beautiful. Hey, Alexander, what is going on? Hey, Dale says we had fun. Talk about me and her. We can't talk about the fun we had, Dale, on the national Christian-based television program. We just can't talk about that at all. Anyway, 3922. I'm tickling myself. 3922. This is a very young on ICW television. This
Hold
is a
on.
very young Macho Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still had blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I had never seen that picture before.
You like it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's history.
Oh, yeah, it's a great picture. I don't think
Yeah.
I've seen it before either. I remember another picture with him with blonde hair, but not this one.
Next picture as we see what else we have on the agenda. Here on Talking Memphis Wrestling, this is a montage of Big Bad John. In
Oh, okay.
1976, he became the bicentennial baby, Big Bad John.
That's right.
He's, as you see him in the one picture in the middle, as a manager of Ronnie Garvin there, Big Bad John. But the top left is as the bicentennial baby with Bill Dundee, as John named Bill Dundee the superstar. All those great pictures. In Birmingham, Pat, did you see Big Bad John
Oh yeah, oh yeah, he was through a good bit.
as a heel?
Yes, yes.
I remember him as Bicentennial Baby along with Bill Dundee. They were a tag team for a while. And but I never kept up with him after that. So I don't know whatever became of Big Bad John.
He was shot in the head in Las Vegas a couple of years later.
Ooh.
Apparently, by the rumor is a mafia hit. That's
Oh,
the rumor.
wow.
Because he wouldn't throw a wrestling match.
No, probably drugs, I'm guessing. Probably
Yeah.
didn't pay. I'm not sure on that. 38-39, we've talked about this tag team a lot on this program today, and what a great working tag
Oh,
team. And first of all, I believe this is Birmingham
That
TV.
is
Pat,
Birmingham. That is
Sterling Brewer, Dennis
Sterling Brewer.
Condrey, and Phil Hickerson. Pat, you'll go first.
That's it. That's the desk at Channel 42, and I'll tell you what, that was one of my favorite tag teams as I got older and began appreciating the art of tag team wrestling. Those two were great.
oh, absolutely. So Pat, what was the announcer's name there in Birmingham?
His name was Sterling Brewer, and he ran. His career was. He ended up. I don't think he ever had, and I wish Michael were on here. We need to. I need to make a note to ask him. I don't think he was like a radio personality or anything, but he had a great wrestling voice. But he ultimately, and Sterling only died like 3 or 4 years ago. But his career was he managed the transportation for the Hoover school system, and Hoover
Hmm.
Hoover is a city is a Birmingham Jefferson County has 37 municipalities in it. It's just unique, and
Right.
Hoover is the second largest city in Jefferson County after Birmingham. It's probably 70 to 80,000 people, so it's a pretty substantial school system. And Sterling ran the transportation for the school system.
Wonder what was in that box on the desk, Pat. Any idea?
I don't know. Can we go back?
Yes.
Looks like files or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. That was, that's interesting. Sterling generally sat in the early days on a fold out table. And then they put up kind of an announcing, stand. But they always had this thing that he did interviews in, and I don't know if those interviews uh, were cut prior or they were for a bicycle tape or whatever. But as I remember it, and as I'm thinking about it based on what I know now, I think they probably cut interviews, that afternoon or something in that, and then just plugged them in.
I love looking at the TV stations back in the day because Rusty and I just got to see Channel 13 and Channel 5. And
Right.
it's interesting to see the other ones without a doubt in the world. Here's another great drawing by Jerry Lawler, 38-38. This is Space Paid For by Jerry Lawler. This is Bad Leroy Brown, the
Oh,
baddest
yeah, yeah.
man in the whole damn town. And he was in a program to get him ready for Dundee, was with a guy that Jerry Lawler managed, and that was Bad Leroy Brown. And Jerry Lawler did this great drawing, one of my all-time favorites of Jerry Lawler. Pat, we'll start with you since you're laughing the most.
I love the caption down below. Bill Dundee is doomed, as you rednecks can see here. My own version of King Kong. Leroy Brown has the situation well in hand. I just wish that Runt Dundee was bigger because then I would whip him myself. But somehow I just feel sorry for midgets. Too bad for Bill that Leroy doesn't feel the same way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's so good. Classic Lawler.
38.99 as we're coming to the end of our great pictures. We have probably five or six more. This is Bobby Hart and Lorenzo Parenti, and I saw them some, but not a whole lot. Rusty,
Yeah, that one escapes me. I don't know those guys.
how
Say
about
their
you,
names
Pat?
again, Randy?
Lorenzo Parenti and Bobby Hart.
Huh. Okay.
I, I may have seen Lorenzo Parenti one time in my life, or he may have been on one card that I saw, but uh,
No, I don't recall.
Okay, we'll look at kind of two tag teams. 3907 is our next picture on our spotlight pictures. This is Gentleman Saw and the Spoilers. Don't ask me who the spoilers are because I don't know. And the interns, I can tell you who that is. Tom Andrews and Billy Garrett and Dr. Ken Ramey. Pat?
Dr. Ken Ramey, all I can think of is Vaseline and Evil because his hair was so slicked back with like that Vitalis, and he was such just an evil heel manager. I mean, when I see heel managers, that's who he's the Bear Bryant of heel managers to me.
How about
Oh
you,
yeah, he was
Rusty?
so slimy. I mean,
Oh
not even
yeah,
just talking about his hair. He just looked slimy
oh
and
yeah.
talked like that. Oh, he was so good. Did you ever see him use the ether on the?
Absolutely, I did. I saw it in Bowell Auditorium. You kidding me? Absolutely.
Hey, Pat Rose is telling us the spoilers, and it's funny. We saw the pictures. You see
Oh
the
wow.
Yeah.
spoilers right there. Now go back to the Bobby Hart and Lorenzo Parenti pictures. That's the spoilers.
Huh.
Okay.
Go back to the other picture that we just saw.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I,
the
I would not have
spoilers.
known that.
Thank you so much, Pat. He's our expert on one of our experts um, on that end of the territory, and that's just a great, great picture. Next drawing by Jerry Lawler, we get a kick out of that, is 3925. 3925 is the next picture that we will see on Talking Memphis Wrestling. And this is original artwork by King Jerry Lawler. I believe, Pat, this is Gentleman Saw.
I
I
think
think
that's
so.
right. Yeah, I think that's right.
I can't
Uh,
imagine who else it could be.
Man, Lawler is talented like a
Hmm.
son of a gun. Number 3926.
that's Birmingham.
Now, Pat, did you ever go to this to watch wrestling? You said it's Channel 42?
That's right.
Now, I've never seen a TV studio without curtains. Adam and I talk about that all the time. Have you been to the studio?
I've not been to the studio. Channel 42 was the even though it was a CBS affiliate, I think at the time, yeah, it was a CBS affiliate at the time. It was it, we didn't get 42 until we got cable. Now, I
Mm.
think I've told the story before, and I don't know if you've heard this, Rusty. My hometown of Talladega was one of three test markets for cable TV in America.
Wow.
One was Talladega, one was I think Phoenix, and one was maybe Colorado Springs. They wanted a larger, a small, and a medium, and the McDonald brothers in Talladega were pioneers in it. But anyway, so we got just crazy channels. I mean, and that's when we got 42, as I remember it, and that probably was around the late 60s. But
Wow. Yeah,
uh,
way before anybody else.
yeah, but that's no, that's it right there. I mean, generally the view that we saw was from Sterling Brewer's left and into the ring. But yeah, Randy, I don't ever remember curtains in there.
That is
And I wish Sterling was alive. I'd reach out to him to get some information on that. But surely Michael knows some people that know. But yeah, that's it right there.
We have two pictures coming up, and it'll be our last two pictures of the day. We'll start with 3929 and then do 3930. We are going to Montgomery TV in Montgomery, Alabama. I have some questions to ask you. I don't even know where Montgomery is, and when I quit this introduction, Pat, you can tell us where Montgomery is. The Goldens, Bill Golden, promoter Bill Golden, is being interviewed by the TV wrestling announcer Daniel Wanko. I've never heard of Daniel Wanko until I found this picture today. This is Montgomery, Alabama TV, and this is the first wrestling television show that Jerry Lawler ever did a interview on for Bill Golden's Wrestling in Montgomery, Alabama. 3930, Adam. Scott Bowden
Wow.
of Kentucky Fried Chicken has put his graphic up there on that he used. That is Daniel Winko. We'll ask Pat in a minute who the hell Daniel Winko is, and you can tell by his body, not by his short tights. You probably hadn't seen Jerry Lawler looking like this. This
Nope.
is a very young king. I'm guessing this is 1970.
That,
Pat, tell us where Montgomery is. Tell us if you ever watched Montgomery TV. Tell me what TV station this was and what day of the week they take the freaking show.
well, I'll tell you about all of that. Montgomery, Alabama is our state capital. To give you a sense of the geography, you start downtown Mobile, I-65 ends, and if you go south to north, which is the way the numbering goes, my exit to get off at my house in Birmingham is 252. The Montgomery exit is 176. No, 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 no. It's one uh
Pat Rose
about
is
122.
estimating 100
Yeah.
miles
It,
from Birmingham.
probably not. It's probably 90 miles
I was
from
going to say
there.
it's about halfway. Montgomery is about halfway between the coast and Birmingham.
Yeah,
Is the way I
that's
always
right.
looked at it. Yeah.
Roughly, yeah. But to answer your question, the Montgomery as a wrestling town was always kind of in the hinterlands, and it was swapped among the Fullers and uh, oh Kelly, who had Mobile.
Bob Kelly.
Bob Kelly, Cowboy
Mm.
Bob had, and generally it was run by one of the others, but nobody really fought for it. Wanko at this time, it was run by I think the Fullers had it at that point in time, and Ron, of course, kept it and made it part of Continental, and ultimately brought Birmingham into it when Nick was gone, and it wasn't worth running for anybody else. But yeah, that was a Saturday morning show too.
Did you ever watch that TV show?
I've watched that TV show a little bit. I've seen it kind of over the years, most of the time on the way to the beach or something like that. We It was on WSFA, which was the NBC affiliate, which we did get on our cable. They wrestled at the Montgomery Auditorium, which is right downtown, about a quarter mile from the governor's mansion.
Pat Rose says he got put in jail in Montgomery for hitting a kid. This is the famous last words he said, and I know Pat Rose. He said, I didn't do it.
I didn't have
don't
nothing to
believe
do
you,
with it.
Pat. There's a classic picture. I wish I still had it. I was young, but probably just first in the office. Pat had an issue with the fan, and Pat was in the fan's face, and so was I. Not in Pat's face. I'm smarter than that. I was in. It was me and Pat going to kick. He wouldn't have needed my help, but I damn sure that's how I got over with the boys. If it came to a situation, I was right there amongst them, and it was me and Pat confronting this fan. Do you remember that, Pat? I wish I still had that picture. There is no doubt about it. Just think of how many television shows in the Gula system. Of course, they had Memphis TV, Jackson TV, Nashville TV, Jackson TV, Knoxville TV, another promotion, but Chattanooga TV on Saturdays, Birmingham television. When somebody didn't
10:30 Saturday night.
10:30 Saturday night. So they do Memphis TV. They would drive to Chattanooga and do Chattanooga TV in the afternoon. Then do the Chattanooga house show at 7 or 8 o'clock. And hey, I love Adam Dunn. This is the fan that caused any problem. You see a dressed up, Abe looking Randy Hales right there. I was closer to the fight. It looks like I'm sweating, doesn't it? I'm taller than anybody in that damn picture, and I'm
You're taller than
looking there
everybody,
with that
Randy.
that beard, man. That is a classic picture, and again, it wasn't easy. A non-wrestler, especially back in those times when I started getting involved, to be accepted. But that's how you get accepted. If they think you're one of the boys, and to prove that first sign of trouble, you're right there. You're right there. Let's see that picture again. Pat says, look at the top guy. I think Pat, we'd have been if that guy would have pulled out a knife or something, that cop wouldn't have been any damn.
Oh, he looks like he's about 14 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks like a Civil Air Patrol cadet, which I was at one time.
So was this in Chattanooga? Is that what you said, Randy?
No, Pat, where was that? I'm not sure if that. No, it wouldn't have been. I don't know.
Where was it, Pat? Says he's got the pic.
It might have been a Tennessee spot show because if me, I wouldn't have been in Chattanooga. It had to have been a Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, Indiana.
That's not Jonesboro, is it, Randy?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Do you remember when I had that Abe Lincoln?
Jackson, Tennessee.
I think you should have gone into politics. I think you look very statesmanlike there.
Hey, that's a compliment that Pat Rose just put up there because it's a prideful thing, and a veteran like Pat saying that for a non-wrestler, an outsider, and Pat, thank God, part of this is two things. The endorsement from Eddie Marlin, then Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler and Tojo and so many others, but says, I'm going to get teary-eyed here, said, Randy, you've always been one of the boys, and that's an honor that you would say that, but that's, you're right, Pat, that's in Jackson, Tennessee. See, and again, if the knife would have been pulled, it uh, would have been uh, the first person to the knife fight would have been Pat Rose. The second to the knife fight would have been me. And that cop, you see that exit sign over there?
Yep.
That cop would have been out the door, no doubt about it, looking at that son of a gun. Adam, thank you for uh, so much for uh, seeing those. So, I sometimes wish I was born late 50s and got involved in the rest of the early 70s, where I could have gone and done a Birmingham TV and a Chattanooga TV and a Montgomery uh, TV and maybe book next end of the territory, because I can tell you I could have done better than he did for sure. After the mentorship of Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler. There's no doubt about it. Just wow, looking what
Nick's issue was once the greens and some of the older heels got out of there,
Right.
he couldn't replace them.
Yeah.
They couldn't get heat anymore.
what do
You
you
know, it's
think?
ironic from a fan standpoint. We didn't even know in Memphis. We didn't even know that wrestling existed in Chattanooga or Birmingham or Montgomery, any of those places. I mean, we vaguely knew there was other wrestling, but we had no idea that this was a regional promotion. It was the same guys in all those different towns. We thought, Lawler, Dundee, and all those guys. Oh, they're just all local to Memphis. That this is all
Well,
there is.
I think they basically were for a long time because I never, and as Randy has pointed out several times, it's because they both ran Monday night. But I don't ever recall seeing Lawler on Birmingham TV.
I bet maybe in the early days that you early 70s, you might not have been watching then. And this is
No,
cool.
I was watching. I mean, I just never saw him. He may have been there,
He
but
might not have. Yeah.
I remember Dutch being there some, and I remember Dundee being there some, but I don't remember Lawler ever being there.
Pat says Chattanooga, Tennessee TV was great, and Harry Thornton was. I'll try to find some Harry Thornton's clip for next week's show if I can. He was just a character. Pat says he has Harry's old mic, just like I have Lance Russell's old mic. We opened the show starting with that. That was a cool thing. We're going to do just a little levity thing, and certainly not one of the classic videos uh, in the history of Memphis wrestling as far as money marking thing. But this is funny. This is Shut Up, You Low Budgets. It's 3 minutes and 40 seconds video. I'm letting Adam find it as I say, my buddy Reggie B. Fine, which has been a guest on the show until he's out there with his opinions, and when it got way too X-rated for me and way too topical for me, I decided that we didn't need to have him on this show, and he ribs me about it all the time. Shut up, you low budgets. I think it's toward the top of the videos, and if you can find it, go ahead and show it.
Fine. Reggie is carrying the world title. Got the fur coat. Got all the gold.
We had
back
fur
on.
coat.
Reggie B. Fine. Reggie,
Classic.
you've got that belt now, but I wouldn't get used to having it.
Hey, it sounds like conspiracy, man. Hey, hold this up a little further. You see what I did with the $10,000 bonus money, didn't you, baby? I know you low budgets like this, don't you? I know y'all like this.
You spent all the money
You
and
low
didn't give the
budget.
wrestler any of it, it looks like.
Hey, you let me worry about that, brother. You let me worry about that. Only thing I got to say, hey, it's going to be a long time before the Kings see this again, baby. You know what I mean? It's gonna go right up on my shelf with all the rest of the gold I got. You see, I still got all my gold.
I see
Hey,
that.
DC.
Awesome Kong beat Lawler like a dog, man. But you know what? I'm gonna give the devil his due. Lawler put up a good fight. My man, he was bruised up a little bit. You know, he cheated, hit them all in the face, and jumping up when his back was turning, all that old stuff. But I will give the devil his due. Lawler is a nice wrestler.
Hey,
You know what? He's a
Rashad.
good top 10 wrestler.
Hey,
But
Mike.
he'll never get another shot at this, baby. Never.
You're not going to give him a return?
He will never get a return. Now we got some punk. I just seen him up in the ring. What his name? Samson.
Samson.
Yeah, Samson. Now he pretty. He looks nice. He got a nice body on him. But you know what? I remember a little fairy tale about 20,000 years ago. Something I don't know. I don't remember. But you remember that old fairy tale with Samson and Dolores, right?
Samson and Delilah, I think it was.
Well, Denise, Delilah, whoever she was, the bimbo. You see what the bimbo did to the boy, right?
It's so
But when he
good.
get in the ring
The
with Awesome
bimbo.
Kong, it's gonna be the same flavor, baby. Cause Awesome Kong gonna grab that boy in the back of his head and snatch every hair out of it. He gonna go down like a punk. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna beat him, and we're gonna beat each and every one of our opponents we get in this ring with. And there's one more thing I wanna say while I'm thinking about it, man. Last week, before that match started, man, that no good punk Jerry Lawler took one of my gold watches, man.
Oh, come on.
Wait a minute,
I'm
man.
not.
Hey, he took one of my gold watches and threw it to some low-budget redneck buckwheat was sitting out in the crowd. He just don't know. I called my lawyer. Come Monday morning, Jerry Lawler, somebody gonna be knocking on your door, boy. And they're gonna be the sheriff department issuing you a summons to get my gold Rolex back, man.
Well, we'll see about that. And I tell you another thing we'll see about. As I said, don't get used to hanging onto this belt. Not only is the King looking for it, as the King pointed out, he may be having to wrestle Samson for it because from what we've seen here today, Samson can take care of himself in the wrestling ring. So show up, bring the belt this week, all right?
That boy gonna get beat like a dog, man.
Well, you'll have to be done in the ring, so bring Awesome Kong and we'll see. Back here.
Those low budget redneck.
You like that, Rusty?
Oh, that was hilarious. I love that.
How about you, Pat?
I love that too, and I tell you, at the Hall of Fame get together, Reggie was one of the first in. I helped him set up. We had a big time together. Good guy,
All right.
and
Talking.
as you say, opinionated.
Yes, absolutely.
He may be wrong, but he's never in doubt.
Never in doubt is Reggie B. Fine. Hey, I watched a video. I go to bed early normally, except on Tuesday night. I go to bed at 7 o'clock. But I saw a video and I sent it to the panel earlier on Netflix last night, and we found it. I want to recommend to our wrestling fans to search on YouTube highlights of last night's Seth Rollins versus Jey Uso World Heavyweight Championship. And Rusty, first of all, you have often said that you don't watch a lot of modern wrestling, and I sent to Michael, to Pat, and to you the entire 20-something match, and I have some strong opinions about the match. Normally on this show we just talk about the bad stuff, and certainly I want to give your opinion, because I sent you a 20-minute match for the world title with Seth Rollins against Jey Uso. Thoughts on the match?
Well, you're exactly right, Randy. I don't routinely keep up with the matches anymore, on a weekly basis, maybe not even on a monthly basis. I'll tune in maybe to WrestleMania, and maybe a handful of other stuff beyond that. But I don't watch routinely anymore. So I did watch this match that you sent to us, and it was a very traditional match in the sense that, if you had substituted Lawler and Dundee for Rollins and Uso, that would not, it would go very much the same way. I mean, those two guys did it. They know how, at least, to do wrestling in the way we grew up with, as opposed to, I guess, most of the matches are, something very different. So I was surprised at how much I enjoyed that match because it was very much like a traditional Memphis wrestling match from 1980 or something. So thank you for sending it. Thank you for pointing it out to us.
Now, Pat, before I kind of analyze it from a booker's standpoint and compare what we normally see to that, and that match had something we don't see in modern wrestling. Pat, did you have the opportunity to watch that video I sent you?
I did, and I echo what Rusty says. That they have people, Uso, Seth Rollins, um,
Cody,
Cody, uh,
Gunther.
Yeah,
Gunther. Yeah, I mean they have people at the top of that card um, that can do matches like that. And look, those guys don't need to ask me how to draw money. Okay, they draw more money than anybody in the history of mankind. And if it just gets kids that want to see the flip flop stuff and it sells tickets, then that's what they're gonna do. And look, let's not be proud. If putting chickens in the middle of the ring would draw money, Jerry Jarrett would have done it, right? So
absolutely.
I get that.
Absolutely.
I get that, but that was a good match, and I agree. I would have loved to seen. I would have been happy to see that match on a Monday night in 1983 in Memphis, Tennessee.
Now that could have been a Jerry Jarrett finish, a Jerry Lawler finish, a Bill Dundee finish, a Dutch Mantell finish, a Randy Hill's finish. The way they incorporated Zayn was perfect timing. The way they then had Punk come in, and I thought it was very interesting. Uso is who they're pushing. The last shot, and normally I wouldn't have liked this. The last shot was Uso in the corner, down, and Zayn up and Punk up, and the champion was down. The reason I didn't have a problem with that is what? What was what was Jay doing, Pat?
I don't remember that part, but go ahead.
He was like sitting there in the corner, as I
But what
recall,
was he doing? There's a wrestling word for it. And you
selling.
don't selling.
Yeah, because he'd been beaten up so much in that match.
That's what he was doing. And that's what both guys did during the whole match. And so that's what I took out of that match. That wasn't your typical 4 or 5 minute match. They had, what, a 20-minute video? Was that what that was?
Yeah.
Guys, if you can search for it at YouTube, uh, from, I guess it would have been May 5th, Raw, Jay Uso and Seth Rollins, and you had Braun Breaker there, and you had Paulie there, and was there anything in that match you can think of would have never been seen in Memphis?
One thing I did notice, Randy, I was going to ask you about. Did you notice that Seth Rollins got busted open? I think hard way in the back of his head. They threw him out of the ring, and he landed on the announce table, and it looked like he hit like the very edge of it on the back of his head, and he was bleeding from the back of his head down his back. I think that must have been a hard way.
100%. 100% of hard way. This ain't ballet, buddy. I ain't ballet, and I hate wrestlers being hurt. Obviously, that might have taken stitches, but as far as a injury that would, and here's another thing: there is positives about wrestling. Say he got hurt and had to be out for 3 months. He would every week still get his check. If he had to go have surgery,
Right.
the WWE would pay for the surgery. The wrestler's health are taken care of a lot better these days, Pat, than there ever has
Oh,
been.
yeah.
So Nick Goulas wouldn't have bought a Band-Aid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's got to be tough. But you know that I mean, truthfully, they probably knew how to work better to not get hurt
Well,
because they
when
were
they
doing
got
it every
hurt in the
night.
old days, it was kind of like Seth did not. You get a laceration on your head, but you don't get a broken neck. You don't get,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
all those things that you see today. You can keep going. If you get a laceration on your head, or even if you like get a tooth knocked out, you can keep going with that. You don't have to sit out for 3 months for those things. And I think that's one of the differences from today's wrestling versus, back in Memphis in the 70s and 80s.
Quick question, new little thing we're going to do toward the end of the show. We're rounding third, but I'll start with you, Pat. This is a new segment that I've stole from Dan Patrick's sports talk show I listen to every day. He has the panel and co-host every week, and at the end of the show, he always asks the question to his co-host, "What did you learn today?" Pat Trammell on Talking Memphis Wrestling on the 6th of May, 2025. What did you learn today?
I learned about a lot of the early people and the development of Bobby Eaton, the development of Coco Ware, the development of all those guys, and seeing them in different combinations of tag teams in different situations.
Rusty? Dr. William Rusty Robinson from Memphis, Tennessee, then New Orleans, Louisiana, now South Beach, Alabama. What did you
South
learn
Beach,
today?
Alabama.
What I really learned today was about the studio wrestling in Birmingham and Montgomery. See, as I said before, we really didn't even know that existed. If you were a fan in Memphis back in the day, so that's fascinating to see that they had a guy like I think Pat said his name was Sterling Brewer.
Hmm.
That they had a guy like Lance Russell who was in
Yeah,
Birmingham. We had no idea that those guys existed. So that's fascinating to me.
we
It's
had
interesting.
Sterling Brewer. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, one thing that was unique about Memphis is they had a two-man announce team long before anybody else I ever watched.
Right.
Yes.
No doubt. How do you like our new format, Pat? I asked you off the air, and then we kind of switched it up a little bit today. I think it's fascinating. Honestly, um, I know people like videos, and we'll get back to video heavy show. It's important to me, and maybe this is the night. Our numbers haven't been great tonight, and I think and our numbers. There might be a basketball game on tonight or something. Our numbers always, we do 10, in the archives, we do 10 times the thing. PJ says that she learned about Birmingham TV. So everybody, if I want everybody to remember this. The Birmingham announcer, Sterling Brewer. The Chattanooga announcer was Harry Thornton. The Montgomery, Alabama announcer was Daniel Winker. We'll be back next week with the action pack, more of the same, and hopefully we can find some great gems on talking Memphis wrestling. So, final take. You said what you liked about the show. What's going on? What's your plans next week, Pat?
Uh, I don't know what my plans are next week. They hadn't told me yet. They tell me. But I really did enjoy tonight, and I enjoy us kind of mixing it up. We all like the videos from time to time, but sometimes it's really nice for me just to sit back and kind of contemplate the history of what's going on by looking at cards and pictures and that kind of thing. And I'm glad I got to share a little bit about Birmingham, and we got to talk a little bit about Chattanooga. That's good stuff.
Now, before we let Rusty does his final take, I'm a wrestling guy, so I sat around thinking about where things. You've been retired for roughly 5 years, maybe not even that. Rusty?
Talking to me, Randy? Oh,
Yeah,
not even that. Yeah, not
not,
even that.
not even that. Say they, and I know, I'm sure you could do emergency medicine, but if right, absolutely. But if you're in New Orleans and there's something like the Oklahoma uh, city bombing, or that we've talked about before, or the Katrina, or something. How does that work? Is it all hands on deck? Would you say, hey, this is Dr. Robinson, do you need some help? Or
Yeah.
how does that go?
Yeah, and in fact, that did happen after Katrina. There's a physician I know. His name is Dr. Brobson Lutz, and he lived in the French Quarter, which is one of the few places that did not flood during Katrina. And he just went out on the street on Bourbon Street in front of Johnny White's bar and set up a little like clinic basically out there right on the street for people who just wandered into it who were injured during Katrina. So yeah, it would absolutely happen. You know, it almost happened again over New Year's in New Orleans. You remember the truck that drove down Bourbon Street and killed a number of people? I was not there at that. We were not in New Orleans at that time, but you know, much the same thing. So yeah, I mean, who knows when something horrendous is going to happen? If you need to step up, you step up. And that's all there is to it. I had no real desire to work part time or just do that sort of thing. I was ready to do something else, at that point. But if it required, I would certainly step in.
Do you feel uh, like right now? I hadn't run a wrestling show in a long time. I could do it just like that. It doesn't take the brains to run a wrestling company. It does to perform surgery. How nervous? This fascinates me. I'm strange, but this fascinates me. How nervous would you be? Say if you would have been on Bourbon Street when that car did the thing, and yet and you take an oath. You would feel obligated to do that.
Yeah,
How
to do
nervous?
whatever you could.
How
Absolutely.
nervous would you be, or would it be second fiddle to you?
For things like that, like sort of primary care in an emergent situation, I think most physicians, I think, would just step right into it and do whatever they felt comfortable with. What would be harder would be to jump back into oncology, which is what I did for so many years,
Yeah.
because there have been so many new agents for cancer in the last couple of years that I'm not really all that familiar with. So that would be much harder to jump back into. But yeah, I think just from the standpoint of, if you had to sew up somebody's laceration or put them in a cast or a splint or something, most physicians could probably do that.
Right. So never off, right?
Something like that. In fact, that's kind of why that I decided I didn't want to be part time. I was tired of being on all the time because I was for many years. I was never off.
And how long you been married? Because thank God for Beth, right? Because not every, you picked the perfect bride, and Pat did too, because she's put up with him for 30 years or more.
No.
But it has to be a special lady, or a lot of lady doctors out there. It takes a special man, because she while you were saving lives, she was raising your family
Oh, absolutely. No,
and keeping your house, right? And
absolutely. We have been together. Well, we'll have been together in June of this year for 44 years. In fact, we dated for 3 years in college before that. So, it's been a long, long time. She was with me every step of the way, essentially, during my medical career. So, in fact, I think she could answer most of the questions. And we used to get a laugh about this. So when I was on call, which is all the time, and I'd be at the house and we get a call at night. This is the day before cell phones. Everybody had a landline. So we would get a call at night from one of our residents, one of our trainees from the hospital, wanting to know something from me. She could listen to their question and she could decide, or she knew enough to know, you need to go back and find some more information before you talk to Dr. Robinson. He's going to get mad if you don't know this, this, and this. So, and she was right.
you would have got mad, right?
That's correct. So the residents would, they were so funny. And the older I get, the younger the residents seem to be. They would say, "Oh, really?" And she would say, "Oh, yeah." "Oh, thank you so much. Okay, I'll call back in a little while."
That's funny. And she would be right?
Oh,
With
yeah.
what she tell them.
Absolutely.
That is great. Fascinating show, Pat.
Yes, sir. Sure was. Thank you all.
And we end up talking medicine. That just fascinates me, don't you?
It is.
That's sort of thing. Rusty, you've been a great addition to this team, and I appreciate it. And most of the time, it's last minute when you hop on. And if we don't have you on, you watch making comments. So I appreciate your support of the show.
Thank you so much. You're very, very welcome. Anytime I can be here, I'll be happy to.
So the Blues Doctor Podcast. When should we check, Pat, for the Blues Doctor Podcast?
Midnight tonight.
Or?
Tomorrow morning.
5 in the morning.
Whenever you wake
Look,
up.
Anybody our age wakes up at 3 in the morning, so go ahead and check this.
I do, by God. For Rusty, William, Dr. Robinson, I might have got out of order there, and Pat Trammell, for Michael St. John and Chris Ellis. Oh, I got a funny story to tell y'all right now. So, older people have trouble with computers, right? I do. This older person does. So, I was having trouble with my computer over the weekend. I couldn't get sound on this nice desktop computer. No sound at all. And I was unplugging things, and that was a mistake, and then plugging it back up in the wrong thing and all that kind of thing. So I wouldn't have been able to hear videos, which would have been okay because we didn't have many videos today, but I couldn't have heard you guys, and I would absolutely have to hear y'all, or it would just be me the whole thing, or me not hearing y'all. So I called my nephew, Cal, who is 20, born on my 44th birthday, and I called him and asked him, so if you have computer problems, you call the younger person in your family. So I called a 20-year-old. You met Cal at the book signing, Pat.
Yeah.
Right. See this picture right here? This is from the book team. Wrestler Derek King, wrestler Bill Dundee, promoter Randy Hales, announcer Michael St. John. This is the great Pat Trammell, the original star of the show and still with us right now, and the assistant superintendent of Southside School, Chris Ellis. So Cal brought 3 buddies with him. So I had a hell of a team. I had 3 smart college dudes fixing my computer. By the way, you can tell they got it working. But anyway,
it's working now.
One dude was standing right here. I was standing behind a little bit, and he was looking at this picture. And he said, "Mr. Randy?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Why do you have a picture of my old high school superintendent on your wall?"
That's good.
That's funny,
good.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Hell, he didn't know who Jerry Lawler was, or Randy Hills was. Then I called Chris up and told Chris I was trying to do a rib, but I blew the rib. I said, "Chris, I'm going to play a game with you. I have a guy here going to talk to you. It's one of your former students, and I want you to tell who the guy is. And I said, if you can, I'll give you $50, right? And then I handed the guy the phone. I think his name was Wes. I exposed. I'm a kayfaber from way back. And then I exposed the whole idea. I said, here, Wes. I said, here, Wes. Talk to Chris. So I said, bets off, bets off. I started you up. But so they talked for 10 minutes. And so Chris said, oh, said, Wes, what are you doing at RH's? The kid said, who's RH? And he said, RH. He said he's Memphis wrestling legend, blah, 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 blah. And he said, well, walking in to this apartment, I saw a picture of him and a bunch of wrestlers, and I saw wrestling pictures all over the place, and I saw a picture of him where has blood from his head to his toe. He said, I knew something was strange about this dude. But they got my computer fixed.
There you go.
So we were all right in the world. Thank you, guys. This is a lot of fun, and we still go 5 minutes over I wanted to go, but this is a great show. Thank you a lot, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Randy.
everybody, for being with us.
Thanks to Chris.
Good to see everybody.
Randy West, and these two guys. And for me, I'm Randy Hills, for Doctor and for Pat. Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Adam.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.